the first thing we have to do is when a player comes to us is to identify, are they eligible to actually play? Can they play a sport standing, walking or running in an upright position? Can they competitively play a sport in a manual wheelchair? If for some reason there is an upper limb disorder and they can't push effectively, then logic tells you that they'll be in a power chair to play their sport.
If they operate a power chair for their daily life and daily activities and can't participate in other sports in a manual chair or ambulatory, then they're eligible for power football.
We're talking a sport here for people with severe levels of disability. If someone has a marginal disability or impairment that means that they don't quite qualify for power chair football, we need to be very careful, because still we're talking quite a severe level of impairment. Therefore, are there any other sports out there that they could effectively take part in?
We don't want the athlete to think that we don't think they're disabled. When you set up a classification system, you have a minimum criteria for who should be playing the sport. For power chair football, one of the things that you look at is, can that person play other sports and do them well without the power chair?
They may well have trained, they may enjoy the team format of the game, and if we take that away from the player, they might not have very many more options. However, if they don't qualify to play, if we allow them to participate in the sport, all we're doing is expanding that eligibility criteria, and that's unfair on those people with more severe impairments.
If they're not eligible to play the sport, then it's our job to notify them, talk with them, discuss with them other options, and make sure they understand why they are not eligible for power football.
It is every athlete's right to protest. If you're made not eligible in classification, that it's your right to be automatically seen by the second panel. You know, classifiers might make mistakes. Athletes might withhold information. There might be a number of reasons why a protest is made. So to have a second set of eyes look at the athlete and assess them using the same process, if they come out with the same answer, then it shows that the process is a solid one.
Because of the nature of the classification team, you have different people looking at the same person and coming through with different ideas. If we don't agree, then we discuss why we feel differently, and hopefully can come to some kind of decision based on all three people's input. You can agree to disagree, but you can agree on a classification.
You need to always think with your head and not with your heart. We don't want to exclude anyone. And so when we find someone who doesn't fit the profile, the sport class profile, it makes it very hard for us, because these are young kids, for the most part, who really enjoy playing the sport. And if we're the ones that have to tell them, I'm sorry, you're really not impaired enough, you're too able for this sport, there are other opportunities for you, it's not a nice feeling. So
it is important to remind ourselves that classification is here to protect the sport rather than exclude anyone, even though we may have to do that so sometimes with some players, but it's important to keep in mind that those players didn't reach the level, so they were actually taking the place of somebody else that could have been playing power chair football but with a more severe level of disabilities.
The one thing we don't need are people who are more able-bodied, who jump into a power chair to play the sport. I think that's denigrating to people who have that level of disability, who need a power chair to express their sport. And therefore the classification system is necessary to protect them.